The hardest thing about weight loss is being consistent. Um, the more you research high carb, low carb diets, whatever it is, you will find that there's no one size fits all. So you have to find something that works for you, and that may be different for other people in your family, your next door neighbor, whoever it is. But you've got to find something that works for you, and you've got to find something that you can stick to. That's the key. Now, no one argues that protein is important. The turnover of protein, your whole body needs protein. Whether you're working out in the gym or not, your body needs protein to repair bone, tissue, organs, everything, on a day-to-day basis, so you're needing protein. And the amount of protein would kind of depend on your age, depend on your kind of activity levels. But, if you're looking at around about 100 grams of protein and upwards a day, you're probably on the right lines. And that could be someone weighing 140 pounds or 10 stone to someone weighing 150, 8 stone, whatever it is, 9 stone. If you've got a ballpark figure of around about 100 grams of protein, you're probably pretty good, and that protein can be broken down into several meals. Now, if you were to eat that whole amount of protein in one meal, your body will digest it. It will absorb it, but it won't put the protein to the usage of what protein's for. There is a ceiling amount of protein that your body can actually use to repair muscle and build muscle. It's not that it won't absorb it. It's not that it won't digest it. It will. It will absorb and digest massive amounts of protein. It's just that it's almost like a waste, So if you were looking to put in 100 grams of protein, then you want to do it over 2 or 3 meals. That could be a shake, a protein shake, if you're just eating once a day, or it could be 2 or 3 meals or 4 meals or whatever it is. But that's pretty much where it is. And now then it kind of comes down to protein sources. Well, if you're vegan and you're following a plant-based diet, then your protein source might be a little bit higher, down to the amino acid spectrum, and the makeup of that with leucine. But if you're having a protein shake, there's probably, if you're looking at an isolate or concentrated protein, vegan protein, there's probably not a great deal in it now compared to a whey protein source. But if you're not having a protein source, like a protein powder, and it's all plant-based, well, then you might be wanting to eat a bit more protein in your diet because of the fiber. And it's the fiber that causes a bit of an issue with us digesting the protein. However, you know what? It's not the end of the world. As for the other 2 macronutrients, if you're looking at carbs and fat and you're looking at them as energy sources, what do you prefer? Do you prefer more carbs? Do you prefer more fats? So it's not difficult. And yes, there are some health benefits to certain fats, especially when you look at the omega-3, that can definitely have some health benefits. But if you look at those 2 as energy sources, then it really kind of comes down to what can you consistently stick to? And whether or not you're listening to someone who's vegan or carnivore or whatever they're following, keto, no one argues about if you can bring your sugar down, it's probably a good thing. And again, we're talking about more like refined sugar and refined carbs, and obviously like the ultra processed food. So if you can bring them down to a minimum, then that's probably going to be better for you. Now, hey, if you've got total control of those and you're still within your calorie range, then the chances are you're good to go. And that kind of brings us on to calories. People think it's calories in, calories out. And it's not calories in, calories out. It's a little bit more complicated than that. And there's like 4 kind of compartments to actually burning calories. And that's what I'm doing now, I'm burning calories here by just talking. So I'm burning probably more calories with my hand movements, and that's like the non-exercise activity thermogenesis side of things, where I'm burning more calories by movement, unsubconscious kind of movement, and that can be walking as well. So if you're going for a walk, if you're walking up flights of stairs, you're doing ironing, you're doing the hoovering, you're walking the dog, that's like non-exercise activity thermogenesis, and that can be quite a big a makeup of calories. It could be like 15%, could even go up to 40%. When I look at my boys, and Amelia Lily, Ethan really burns calories away. He's always twitching, he's always moving around, and he burns calories super high. Where the other two are a lot more laid back and they don't burn as many calories that way. So that's that first compartment. The other compartment I mentioned is exercise. So where you're going to a gym, you're going to a yoga class, you're going to a bounce class, you're playing tennis, golf, rugby, whatever it is, you're going swimming. That's exercise. You're kind of getting a sweat on, and that's like a smaller percentage. It's a smaller percentage, but the health benefits of exercise and resistance training, and this is what I try to tell some of my clients, are massive, are absolutely massive. If you look at resistance training and what it does to the bones and the muscle and all that kind of stuff, you cannot do that without loading the bone in some kind of way, the muscle in some kind of way. So when I talk to my clients, I do not come to me and do resistance training in a way of trying to drop body fat, because the amount of calories you're burning are really very small. You're better off just going for a power walk, and you probably burn more calories if that's what you're looking to do. However, if you can actually control the food that you're eating, whilst up in like the non-exercise activity thermogenesis side of things, going for a walk and doing some kind of physical activity that you enjoy doing, then the chances are you are good. You're good. You get most of those bases covered. The other part of that is the thermic effect of food. So there is 4 compartments of that. So when you're looking at food and you're looking at protein is a very, very key nutrient that actually costs us energy to actually get the amino acids out, and it's up to 30% of calories can be actually burnt by actually trying to cleave that nitrogen bond off of the protein so that we can actually use the amino acids. Whereas if you look at fat, it's about 2% of the calories, so we can store fat really easily. It doesn't cost us much energy. And carbs, maybe 5 to 10%, but we've only got a small amount of space to store those carbs in glycogen within the muscles and the liver. We cannot store protein. We just can't store protein. So if we're not using it, for the repairing, etc., building muscle, then we're just going to excrete it, and we excrete it by weeing it out. A bird would excrete it by pooing it out, and a fish through its gills, so that's how we kind of get rid of the urea. So if you're looking at that, we can store ultimate amounts of body fat. We can store glycogen to a certain degree until the muscles and the liver are full, and then we will turn that into fat and we'll store that. So we can store those two really, really well. But protein is something we cannot store. So that's why if we can do 2 or 3 kind of feedings of those over the day, then we're kind of good to go. With calories, there's so many free calorie calculators out there, and if you're really accurate, you can put in honestly what you're doing, your levels of activity. It's a starting point. So let's say you go to our website, and there's a free calorie calculator on our website, coachedbykennyandlisa.com, and you put in your activity levels and you put all that stuff in there, and it says, hey, you should be on 1900 calories a day. Fantastic. There's a starting point. 1900 calories a day. I've already told you about your protein. So with those 1900 calories, you're like, right, I'm going to stick to those 1900 calories. And that's the key, to try to stick to those kind of calories as much as you can for a couple of weeks to see what happens. And you weigh yourself a couple of times a week, maybe even on a daily basis. It's not the end of the world for the first couple of weeks, to see what's happening. And then by the end of those 2 weeks, If you're dropped a pound or so, you know those calories are pretty much on the money. Now, if you've not dropped anything, it might be that you're looking at how accurately you are weighing your food and logging your food, in a fitness tracker. But it doesn't mean to say they're off. It could be that you're just weighing them in a different way and you're logging them in a different way. But it really doesn't have to be difficult. So you've got loads of free apps. MyFitnessPal is a great free app. Yes, it has got some issues because it's user-based and users can put their own kind of figures in there. So it makes it a little bit trickier, but it's a place to start. What I found is as soon as you start logging your food, and logging it and trying to be as accurate as you can for at least a couple of weeks, the chances are that you are starting to change some habits and develop some good habits. And it doesn't have to be like that all the time, but these are the basics. And if you are not going to follow the basics of what I've said here about being consistent, trying to go for a walk, trying to do some exercise, looking at some foods that are going to take you towards your goals and be consistent with them, then nothing's going to change. There is no magic sauce. There is no magic pill. There is no magic surgery. There is no magic. You've got to do the work yourself. You've got to do the work yourself. And if you're taking a picture of yourself and you're trying to highlight a you of 30 years ago, but you're not prepared to actually work on you of now, then you are going to mess up your blueprint of your mind because you're going to be wanting something that you cannot have. And that's the psychological aspect of dieting that you really have to work on. The psychological aspect that really is difficult. You just cannot have what you're not prepared to pay for. And it doesn't, and we're not talking about finance here. We're talking about effort. We're talking about consistency, developing the habit of doing something over a longer period of time that when you do look at yourself in the mirror, you go, you know what? Fantastic. I'm really pleased with how I'm looking. Yes, I don't look like I was when I'm 20. And I do this. When I look in the mirror, I think to myself, I'm not. But then I catch myself and I realize, actually, I'm not 20 anymore. I'm not 20 anymore. I haven't got that rounded chest, that back, that little waist, all those kind of things. But then I'm not doing what I used to do. But I'm 55 now, And actually, for most 55-year-olds, I look pretty good. I look pretty good and I feel great. And I think to myself, how is my back? What's that pain like? And I manage that back issue by doing what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. I manage the back issue, which allows me to feel good about myself, to control the pain, and to be pretty happy with what I'm seeing in the mirror, and be good for my family. And that's what it all kind of comes down to. If you need help with any of this, reach out and let's talk. Don't have to suffer in silence and let's just get it done. Easy. Simples. Have a fantastic day.